Iran is a land with a very old and important story. Its history goes back thousands of years. Early people lived in this region long ago. They were farmers and herders. They built small villages on the large Iranian plateau. This land is a high, flat area with mountains all around it. The mountains protected the people. The land also gave them water and resources to live. These early groups were the first to call this place home. They created the first cultures here. Their lives were simple, but full of meaning. They laid the groundwork for what was to come. Over time, these small villages grew into bigger towns. Different groups of people moved into the area. Two important groups were the Medes and the Persians. They arrived around 1500 BC. They were related peoples who spoke similar languages. The Medes were the first to create a large kingdom. They built a strong army and controlled a big part of the region. Their capital city was Ecbatana, which is now Hamadan. The Medes showed that it was possible to unite many different peoples under one rule. This was a new idea. It was the beginning of the idea of an empire in Iran. The Persians lived south of the Medes. At first, they were under the control of the Median kingdom, but the Persians were strong and had ambitious leaders. They learned a lot from the Medes about how to run a government and an army. They watched and waited for their chance to become powerful. The land of Persia, called Parsa, was their home. It was a good place to build their strength. They were patient and smart. They knew their time would come. This period was like a school for the Persians, preparing them for their great future. This early history is the foundation of Iran. It is a story of different peoples coming together. It is about learning how to build something bigger than a single tribe or village. The ideas of kingship and empire started here. The geography of the land, with its mountains and plateau, shaped the people and their history. It made them strong and independent. This long history is a source of great pride for Iranians. It shows a continuous civilization that has lasted for thousands of years. The story of the Medes and Persians is just the beginning of Iran's epic journey. The story of the Persian Empire truly begins with a great leader. His name was Cyrus the Great. Around 550 BC, Cyrus, the king of the Persians, rose up against the Medes. He was a brilliant military leader and a wise ruler. He defeated the Median king and united the Medes and Persians under his own rule. This was the start of the Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus did not stop there. He went on to conquer many other lands. He took over the powerful kingdoms of Lydia and Babylonia. His empire became the largest the world had ever seen at that time. Cyrus was known for being a kind ruler. This was very unusual for his time. When he conquered a new city, he did not destroy it. He respected the local religions and customs of the people. He famously freed the Jewish people who were held captive in Babylon. He allowed them to return to their homeland and rebuild their temple. This earned him a reputation for being just and merciful. A famous artifact called the Cyrus Cylinder tells this story. It is considered by some to be an early charter of human rights. Cyrus showed that an empire could be powerful and tolerant at the same time. After Cyrus, other great kings continued to expand the empire. Darius the Great was one of the most important. He organized the empire into provinces called satrapies. Each province was run by a governor, or satrap. This system made the huge empire easier to manage. Darius also built a famous road system, called the Royal Road. It connected the far corners of the empire. This helped with trade, communication, and moving armies quickly. He also created a standard currency and a postal service. These innovations helped to unite the diverse peoples of the empire. The Achaemenid Empire was a true world power. It stretched from modern-day Turkey and Egypt in the west to India in the east. Its capital cities like Persepolis and Susa were magnificent. They were filled with amazing art and architecture. The empire was a place where many different cultures mixed. Ideas, goods, and people traveled freely across its vast lands. This period was a golden age for Persia. It established a legacy of empire, administration, and cultural influence that would shape Iran and the world for centuries to come. The glory of ancient Persia remains a powerful symbol for Iranians. The great Achaemenid Empire did not last forever. A new power was rising in the west. Alexander the Great of Macedonia led his Greek armies against Persia. In a series of famous battles, he defeated the Persian king, Darius III. Around 330 BC, Alexander conquered the entire Persian Empire. He burned the great city of Persepolis. This was a huge shock. It marked the end of the Achaemenid dynasty. Alexander's conquest brought Greek culture, language, and ideas to the region. This new period is called the Hellenistic Age. Greek influence mixed with Persian traditions. After Alexander died, his huge empire was divided among his generals. The part that included Persia was ruled by the Seleucid dynasty. The Seleucids were Greek rulers who tried to maintain control over a vast and diverse territory. However, their rule was not always strong. Many local Persian leaders and people did not like being ruled by foreigners. Over time, the Seleucid power weakened. A new Iranian group, the Parthians, rose up in the east. They were skilled warriors, especially famous for their archers on horseback. They slowly pushed the Seleucids out of Iran. The Parthians established their own empire around 247 BC. They ruled for nearly 500 years. The Parthian Empire was a major power that stood between the Roman Empire in the west and the Han Dynasty in China. They controlled the famous Silk Road, a network of trade routes. This made them very wealthy. The Parthians were successful in fighting off the Romans many times. They preserved many Persian traditions while also being open to Greek cultural influences. They created a unique blend of cultures. Their long rule showed the strength and resilience of Iranian identity. Around 224 AD, the Parthian dynasty was overthrown. A new Persian dynasty, the Sassanids, came to power. The Sassanids saw themselves as the true successors of the Achaemenid kings. They wanted to restore the glory of ancient Persia. They made Zoroastrianism the official state religion. This was the ancient religion of Persia. The Sassanid Empire was another golden age for Iranian culture. They produced beautiful art, architecture, and literature. They were a constant rival to the Roman and later the Byzantine Empire. The Sassanid era was the last great Persian empire before the arrival of Islam. In the 7th century AD, a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula. Arab armies, inspired by the new religion of Islam, began a rapid conquest. The Sassanid Empire had been weakened by long wars with the Byzantine Empire. It was also suffering from internal problems. The Arab armies attacked the Sassanids. In a series of decisive battles, like the Battle of Qadisiyah, the Persian army was defeated. The last Sassanid king was killed, and the empire collapsed. By the middle of the 7th century, the land of Iran was under the control of the new Islamic Caliphate. The Islamic conquest brought huge changes to Iran. The most important change was religion. Over time, the majority of the Iranian people converted from Zoroastrianism to Islam. This process was slow. It took several centuries. At first, non-Muslims had to pay a special tax, but they were generally allowed to practice their own religion. Slowly, Islam became the dominant faith. The Arabic language also became very important. It was the language of the Quran, the holy book of Islam. It was also the language of government and science for a long time. Even though Iran became part of the Islamic world, it did not lose its own unique culture. The Persian people kept their own language, Farsi. They adapted the Arabic script to write their language. Persian culture had a huge influence on the wider Islamic world. Many scientists, doctors, poets, and philosophers from Iran became famous. People like Avicenna, or Ibn Sina, in medicine and Omar Khayyam in poetry and mathematics are still known today. Persian art, music, and literature continued to flourish. This created a new Persian Islamic culture. Over the next few centuries, Iran was ruled by many different dynasties. Some were Arab, some were Turkic, and some were Persian. Local Persian dynasties began to gain power and independence. Dynasties like the Samanids and Buyids helped to revive Persian culture and language. This period showed that while Iran had accepted Islam, it had not been absorbed completely. It had instead created its own special version of Islamic civilization. The Persian identity remained strong. It blended with Islam to create something new and powerful that would continue to shape the country's future. After centuries of rule by various dynasties, a very important change happened in Iran. At the beginning of the 16th century, a new dynasty called the Safavids came to power. Their leader was a young man named Shah Ismail I. He united the country under his rule around 1501. The Safavids were different from the rulers who came before them. They had a powerful new vision for Iran. They wanted to create a strong, unified state with a unique identity. This period marked the beginning of modern Iranian history, and honestly, it set the country on a path that it still follows today. The most significant action of the Safavids was making Shia Islam the official state religion. Before this time, most Iranians, like most of the Islamic world, were Sunni Muslims. This was a huge and forceful change. The Safavid Shahs used their power to convert the population to Shi'ism, and this gave Iran a distinct religious identity. It made Iran different from its powerful neighbors, the Ottoman Empire in the west and the Mughals in the east, who were both Sunni. This religious difference often led to wars, but it also helped to create a strong sense of national unity in Iran. The greatest Safavid ruler was Shah Abbas I, also known as Abbas the Great. He ruled from 1588 to 1629. He was a brilliant military leader and a wise administrator. He reformed the army and the government. He defeated the Ottomans and other enemies, securing Iran's borders. Shah Abbas also moved the capital to the beautiful city of Isfahan, and he turned Isfahan into one of the most magnificent cities in the world. He built amazing mosques, palaces, and public squares. The Naqshi Jahan Square in Isfahan is a masterpiece of this era. His rule was a golden age for art, architecture, and trade. The Safavid dynasty created the foundations of the modern nation-state of Iran. They united the country under a single government, and they gave it a specific religious identity with Shia Islam. This created a strong bond between Persian culture and Shia faith. This legacy is incredibly important. The borders of modern Iran are largely the borders that were established by the Safavids. The country's Shia character, which is central to its identity today, was shaped during this period. The Safavids re-established Iran as a major power in the world and left a lasting mark on its soul. After the Safavid dynasty weakened and fell, Iran went through a period of instability. Eventually a new dynasty, the Qajars, took control at the end of the 18th century. The Qajars were a Turkic tribe, and they made Tehran their capital city, which it still is today. The Qajar period, which lasted until 1925, was a very challenging time for Iran. The world was changing rapidly, and powerful European empires, like Russia and Britain, were expanding. Iran found itself caught between these two great powers, both wanting to have influence and control over the country. During the Qajar era, Iran lost a lot of territory. In a series of wars with Russia, Iran was forced to give up its lands in the Caucasus region. These are countries like modern-day Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. This was a great blow to the nation's pride. Britain also extended its influence, especially in the south and east, to protect its interests in India. The Qajar Shahs were often weak rulers, not able to modernize the country or its army effectively. They signed treaties and gave economic concessions to the Europeans, making many Iranians feel that their country was losing its independence. Despite these political weaknesses, there were important cultural and social changes. The first newspapers were printed in Iran during this time, and the first modern school, the Dar al-Funun, was established. It taught modern science and military techniques. People started to travel to Europe and bring back new ideas about government, law, and freedom. A growing number of intellectuals and religious leaders became unhappy with the government's weakness and the growing influence of foreigners. They began to demand reforms and a constitution, which led to new political movements. This pressure for change led to the Constitutional Revolution, which happened between 1905 and 1911. People from all parts of society, including merchants, clergy, and intellectuals, protested against the Shah's absolute power. They demanded a constitution and a parliament, or Majl. After a long struggle, they succeeded, and the Shah was forced to accept a constitution that limited his power. This was a major event in Iranian history, one of the first movements of its kind in the Middle East. It showed that the Iranian people wanted a more modern and just government. The Qajar era ended in weakness, but it planted the seeds for future change. The Qajar dynasty finally came to an end in 1925. A military officer named Reza Khan took power. He was a strong and ambitious man who believed that Iran needed to become a modern and powerful nation. He removed the last Qajar Shah and made himself the new Shah, starting a new dynasty, the Pahlavi dynasty. He took the name Reza Shah Pahlavi. His goal was to modernize Iran very quickly. He wanted to build a strong central government and a modern army, and he looked to the West, especially countries like Germany and Turkey, as models for his reforms. Reza Shah made many big changes. He built factories, roads, and the Trans-Iranian Railway, which connected the Caspian Sea in the north to the Persian Gulf in the south. It was a huge engineering project. He established a modern university system and sent students to study in Europe. He also made changes to society. He forced men to wear Western-style clothes and hats, and he banned the traditional veil for women. These changes were very rapid and often very forceful. Some people welcomed them as progress, but others felt that he was destroying traditional Iranian and Islamic values. During World War II, Iran was neutral. However, Reza Shah was seen as friendly to Germany, and Britain and the Soviet Union were worried about this. They invaded Iran in 1941 to secure the oil fields and a supply route, and they forced Reza Shah to give up his throne. His young son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, became the new Shah. The new Shah was at first not as powerful as his father, and for a time, there was more political freedom. This led to the rise of a popular nationalist leader, Mohammad Mossadegh. He became prime minister and nationalized the British-owned oil industry in 1951. The nationalization of oil was very popular in Iran, but it made Britain and the United States very angry. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence organized a coup to overthrow Mossadegh. They put the Shah back in full power. After 1953, the Shah became an absolute ruler. He used the country's growing oil wealth to continue his father's modernization projects. This was called the White Revolution. He built more schools, hospitals, and dams. However, he also created a powerful secret police, called Savak, which crushed all opposition. The Shah's rule became more and more dictatorial, and this made many people very unhappy. By the 1970s, many groups in Iran were angry with the Shah's rule. Religious Iranians were upset by the westernization of society, feeling that Islamic values were under attack. Intellectuals and students wanted more political freedom and democracy, while poor people felt left behind by the economic boom. They saw the Shah's family and the elite getting very rich from oil, while they remained poor. All this anger and frustration started to grow. A powerful leader emerged to unite these different groups. His name was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He was a religious scholar who had been exiled by the Shah. From his exile, first in Iraq and then in France, Ayatollah Khomeini sent messages to the Iranian people. He criticized the Shah for being a puppet of the United States and attacked the corruption of the government and the loss of Islamic identity. His messages were recorded on cassette tapes and smuggled into Iran, and people listened to them in secret. He became the main voice of the opposition and promised to create a more just and independent Iran based on Islamic principles. His powerful words gave hope to millions of people who felt powerless under the Shah's rule. In 1978, huge protests and strikes began all across Iran. Millions of people took to the streets, demanding that the Shah leave the country. The Shah's army tried to stop the protests, and many people were killed, but the demonstrations only grew larger and more determined. The country was paralyzed, and the Shah's government lost control completely. Seeing that his situation was hopeless, the Shah finally left Iran in January 1979. He never returned. His departure was met with massive celebrations. It was the end of 2,500 years of monarchy in Iran. A few weeks later, on February 1, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Iran in triumph. Millions of people greeted him in Tehran, and a new government was formed. In a referendum, the people voted to abolish the monarchy and chose to establish an Islamic republic. A new constitution was written, based on Khomeini's idea of Vilayat-e-Faqih, or the guardianship of the jurist. This meant that the highest authority in the country would be a supreme leader, a top religious scholar. Ayatollah Khomeini became the first supreme leader. The 1979 revolution completely changed Iran. It created a new political and social system unlike any other. Today's Iran is a complex country, deeply shaped by all the different chapters of its long history. The Islamic Republic, born from the 1979 revolution, continues to govern the nation. The system of a supreme leader and an elected president and parliament is still in place. The country's identity is a unique mix of its ancient Persian heritage and its modern Shia Islamic character. This blend can be seen everywhere, from the country's art and language to its politics and social life. Iran sees itself as a leader in the Islamic world, independent from Western powers. This desire for independence is a direct result of its experiences in the past. Iran's relationship with the rest of the world has often been difficult. Shortly after the revolution, the Iran-Iraq War began. It lasted for 8 years and caused terrible destruction and loss of life. It made the country more isolated but also more self-reliant. In more recent times, Iran's nuclear program has been a major source of tension with the United States and other Western countries. International sanctions have hurt Iran's economy and its people. Despite these challenges, Iran remains a very important and influential country in the Middle East. It has a large, young, and well-educated population. Inside Iran, society is full of life and debate. There is a constant conversation between tradition and modernity. Young people, who make up a large part of the population, are connected to the world through the internet. They have new ideas and aspirations. Women have a strong presence in universities and public life, even while facing social and legal restrictions. There are ongoing debates about social freedoms, economic policy, and the direction of the country. This dynamic shows that Iranian society is not static. It is always changing and evolving, just as it has throughout its history. From the glorious empire of Cyrus the Great to the Islamic Republic of today, Iran's journey is a story of resilience and transformation. It is a civilization that has influenced the world for millennia. It has absorbed invasions and new ideas, but it has always kept its unique Persian soul. To understand Iran today, its pride, its politics, its culture, and its challenges, we must look at its incredible past. The story of ancient Persia is not just a story in a history book, it is a living history that continues to shape the destiny of the Iranian nation and its place in the world.